Versatile, fearless. Shabana ji, you are a treasure to cinema.
It sort of flew over my head. I didn't really internalize the fact that I'd won a national award. I did not realize that it would become the path breaker. It was so typical of Manmohan Desai that he spoke it just as it is. And that's what endeared me.
Avatar, I think, shook many parents.
Avatar had a very deep impact on society, and so many people came up. It brought about some transformation in some people's thinking.
You did a role which today is being considered as something, okay, this person has done this role. She's bold. You did that role in 96.
I felt that if I did this film, it would make it more difficult for the women. There was a time when Naseer and I were doing so many films together that he was spending more time with me than with Ratna, and I was spending more time with him than with Javed.
Shashi Kapoor.
You know, I have been a fan of Shashi Kapoor since I think I was 9. When I was suddenly cast opposite him in Hero Aur Patthar, it was like completely unbelievable. See, all actors need one film by which they'll always be remembered. And so I've got art, and I have only Mahesh Bhatt to thank for it.
Versatile, fearless. Shabana ji, you are a treasure to cinema. 50 years. I think we all have been lucky to have you. And if I praise you any further, I'll mess up my grammar, trust me, in my nervousness and privilege to sit opposite you right here for this interview. Shabana ji, I'll jump to this question straight away. First movie, Ankur, 1974, and a national award. Who does that?
It really doesn't happen. And so when it happened, it sort of flew over my head. I didn't really internalize the fact that I'd won a national award for it. But the credit must go entirely to Shyam Benegal for conceiving the role of Lakshmi in the way that he did. And it was very interesting because, you know, before that, I had never entered a village. So I was this St. Xavier's sort of Bombay girl who had never experienced this. And so when Shyam took me to that village, I think it was Yella Reddy Guda, about 25 miles from Hyderabad. For me, everything looked so alien. And he realized that immediately. And so he said, okay, so get into your clothes and just walk. Just walk around the village. Because I had to get my gait in that sari, unchi sari, pante and all that. And then there was also one very interesting thing that I couldn't sit on my haunches. And a lot of my work was on my haunches. So Shyam said, listen, you're not going to sit at the dining table with us. You sit in that corner on the floor till you learn to sit on your haunches. So I did that dutifully. Now, a couple of days into the shooting, a couple of college boys came and they looked at me very disdainfully and they said, heroine kidhar hai picture ki? So I said, she hasn't come today. So they said, और तुम कौन है? तो मैंने कहा, मैं आया का रोल कर रही. ठीक है, they said. And they went away. Now, Shyam had watched this. And then he called me and he hugged me and he said, you've convinced them that you are a maid. So you've done what you're supposed to do. Now you can come and sit with us and now you can join the table. So it was, you know, this kind of grueling experience that one had to go through. But for me, what was very fascinating was the mind of Lakshmi. You know, a lot of people had advised me against the film and they said, you can't do that. You'll be stamped a vamp for the rest of your life. And imagine she has an extramarital affair and she also steals rice. Now, for me, the stealing of rice was such a human thing. It had really warmed me. to Lakshmi, and people were viewing it differently. So it is to Shyam's credit that, and it was based on a real life story that Shyam's friend had. And the learning to pound the mirchi, there's a certain
Yeah,
rhythm in which you do it, which I couldn't do. And so all the women would laugh at me and say, Shahar ki ladki aur itna bhi nahi aata hai, and things like that. And of course, we became friends. And it passed by without without much ado. But I do remember writing to my mother, and I said, you know, this is a kind of Satyajit Ray quality I can sense in what we are shooting. So I realized that this would be a different kind of film, but I did not realize that it would become the path breaker that it did and lead the way for parallel cinema in Hindi. So I'm very fortunate to have got that.
we were very fortunate that you started your journey there. And 76, I'm jumping 2 years ahead, you did the biggest blockbuster, which we still see n number of times, Amar Akbar Anthony.
You know, it's a very interesting story. I had worked with Manmohan Desai before that in a film called Parvarish. In fact, we were simultaneously shooting it. And I'd absolutely enjoyed being with Neetu Singh. We were both thieves together, sisters. And there was, of course, Vinod Khanna and Amitabh Bachchan. It was a ball. I had a ball. So he came to me while I was shooting for another film. I think it was in Ranjit's studio. And he said, Hey, Shabana, you have to do me a favor. So I said, Of course, Manji, tell me. He's saying, I am producing a film for the first time and I want you to be part of it. I said, Done. So he's saying, Nahi, pehle sun le. रोल बॉल कुछ भी नहीं है बट वो विनोद खन्ना मेरी जान के पीछे पड़ेगा कि ऋषि कपूर को हेरोइन दिए अमिताभ बच्चन को हेरोइन दिए मेरे को क्यों नहीं दे रही तो मैं तेरे से गुस्सा रहा हूँ सो इट वाज सो टिपिकल ऑफ Manmohan Desai that he spoke it just as it is. And that's what endeared me to him, you know. So I said yes. And I'm very glad to have been part of that film.
So, क्या चल रहा था set पर? You know, it's very interesting when you watch the film. So many people, so much of chaos.
So much of chaos. So now I'm going to tell you something that will take a breath away. We were at Raj Kapoor's studio, and there were two shootings simultaneously with the same actors and the same director. One was Parvarish and the other was Amar Akbar Anthony. So the actors were changing clothes and going and doing that. And Manmohan Desai would go from one set to another. Can you imagine something like that today? And I remember being so fascinated because I watched the scene in which Amitabh Bachchan is putting a tape on the mirror reflection of himself. Vicky, he did 14 takes for no fault of his. The कुछ कैमरे की गड़बड़ हो जाती कुछ, but the concentration with which he would do it, I mean, it was stunning to watch. And I always think कि मतलब कितना focus और imagination है कि you were doing one film and on the same day you're doing another film on the next set. It's complete chaos. But only Manmohan Desai could pull that through. You know, take us along with him in the spirit and say, and Parvarish was crazy because for 1 month, Neetu Singh and I were, the villain had caught us and there was this well and we were hanging from the well and we couldn't afford to fall because there were crocodiles that could eat up our legs. Now, can you imagine trying to bring any kind of realism in it? But then we started falling in the water और हम में से इतनी बदबू आती थी इतनी बदबू क्योंकि पता नहीं कितना stagnant water था that when we would come out of it people say and we would say you're doing and what about us, we are going to get some kind of skin rash or something and then we'd go and then we'd have a bath and it was like, but it was just fun. It was just tremendous fun.
Even Neetu was doing both the films.
Yes, Neetu was doing both the films and Neetu was lovely. I used to just get along extremely well with her.
So then again you went to Sparsh, another highlight, 1980. It was fascinating.
You know, how Sparsh came my way, Subhashini Ali who was then Muzaffar Ali's wife. She came to me and she said, Shabana, Sai Paranjpe is very talented and she wants you to work in her film Art, and she's not going to be able to pay any money. So read it and see what you think of it. And I said, when I read it, I loved it. But for me, Sparsh is a beautifully written film. And Nasir's performance in that is so incredible. What would happen is that after the shot, I would instinctively hold his hand if we had to come down the stairs because I was convinced he was blind. He was that good in it. It was, and there were many, many different experiences. You know, the children would come and they would say, Didi, aapki picture dekhna hai. And one would feel, and then you would realize they just listen to the sound, and that for them is seeing a film. Or they would say, Humko cricket khelna hai. And we would look at each other and then realize that what they'd done is instead of the ball, they had a ring with little ghungroos on it. And that's how they would feel. So, I mean, getting into the world of the blind was such an emotional experience. And I think what I did get from Sparsh was that we have so few books in Braille for the people who are sightless. And it's only now, mercifully, that we've started doing that. So, you know, every film ends up sensitizing you in one way or the other. And that I think is so enriching for an actor because not only do you give yourself to the character that you're playing, but also you get so much from the character's world that you are inhabiting. So it's a two-way thing, which is, I don't think you'd get it in any other profession.
And 83, I think, was the biggest year for you because Masoom, Avatar, Mandi, and you were nominated for all the three as the best actress. And you were fab. You were just fab in Masoom. Avatar, I think, shook many parents.
Avatar had a very deep impact on society. And so many people came up to me and said that it shook them to the very core. And they realized that they need to revisit the way they depend on their children. And of course, it became a golden jubilee and all that. But more important than that, it brought about some transformation in some people's thinking. And if a film can do that, that's absolutely magical.
And then I'm jumping here quite a bit. 96 Fire. You did a role which today is being considered as something, okay, this person has done this role. She's bold. He's bold. You did that role in 96.
Yes, it's not that I didn't have my reservations because Shekhar Kapoor had told me that there is a script which is very interesting and it's going to come your way and I think you should do it. So when I read it, I had some apprehensions because, you know, I was working in the slums and the people there tend to be very conservative. And so I felt that if I did this film, it would make it more difficult for the women to follow me because people would say, Ki kya hai? All that. And then I told Javed about it. And Javed said, will you be able to defend the film when it is criticized? And I said, yes. So he said, then go ahead and do it. Then Zoya, imagine how small she was at that time. I told her, there's this film and, you know, I don't know why I should do it. And she said, do you like the script? And I said, yes. So she said, what other consideration can there be? I said, well, you know, it's a same-sex film. And she said, so? And I looked at her and said, my God, the younger generation thinks completely
She must be barely
differently.
23, 24 at time.
Yeah. And then what is amazing, I've not said this on record, but I do need to, that in the original script, the person that I played dies in the fire. And Farhan, who was even younger at the time, I don't know why I shared my script with both these kids. And he said, no, you can't have her succumb to the fire because that would lose the very purpose of what you are saying. So she has to not come out. She can come out scared, but she cannot die. And then I said that to Deepa, and Deepa agreed. So both my children had a contribution in it, while neither of them had started working in films at that point.
Their talent is for all to see now. I mean, both of them.
But what's very interesting is everybody keeps asking me, uh, when are your kids going to work with you? And I say, it is easier to convince Steven Spielberg to work with me rather than my own children. And look at what happened. Steven Spielberg offered me Halo, and I'm
Halo.
working in it, and I've just finished the second season.
Yeah.
But now they keep saying, we have to wait, we have to see a role, ye, wo, etc. But I would love to work with them because both of them are excellent directors in my view.
Let's hear about Hello. How has the experience been? What is the difference you see when you shoot with Steven Spielberg and when you shoot for
See,
a
he's the
Bollywood
producer.
film?
He's a producer. He's not the
Yeah,
director.
yeah.
But the
But
thing,
फिर भी वो माहौल और वो
firstly, the most important thing about Halo to me has been the colorblind casting. You know, as Asian actors, we have said, why should all the best roles go to the Caucasians? Why is the role defined by the ethnicity of the actor? You should be able to do it colorblind. And now in Halo, that's what happened. I play Admiral Parangoski, but I don't change my accent. I don't change the color of my hair. I don't change the color of my eyes. I speak exactly the way that I am. We have Korean actors, we have Chinese actors, we have American actors, and everybody speaks in their own accents because you have to look through the ethnicity and look at the part, which I think is a very, very important thing. And now that it has happened in Halo and a couple of other mainstream things, I hope that will become, if Laurence Olivier can do Othello, then why can a Chinaman not do it? Why can an Asian not do it? That's the question that is being asked.
so no barriers.
No barriers. No, there should be.
Yeah.
No barriers. At least barriers I can understand, but you can't be defined by your ethnicity.
Absolutely, absolutely. So you spoke about Farhan and Zoya. You took that script to them, and they used to speak so freely to you. It's so endearing to see that you have such a healthy and a beautiful relationship with them.
Yeah.
Touch wood. How did this happen? I mean,
Because of Honey's generosity. It just could not have happened if Honey had not been so generous to share them with me. And she did that from the time they were very small children. And when they got that from their mother, and they saw that I wasn't the stepmother that they had read about in fairy tales, it became so much easier. But the fact is that I didn't push myself on them. I didn't try too hard. I just let it be. I let water flow its own course. And then it is really a very beautiful relationship. So, yes, I would give a lot of the credit to Honey, but also to myself and to Javed and to the children. So today, when you see us, we are like a family. She's like a family member. And because of that, I think, see, a divorce between a man and a woman, a piece of paper can't wipe out the relationship that had been. In fact, that's my line in Earth. कि वाह कविता तुमसे वो बंधन चाहती है जो एक दस्तखत से भी टूट सकता है. That is the point. But I do think that, people are very hasty to judge. And I think it's so painful for the three people involved that people shouldn't judge because ऐसा नहीं है कि it was all easy. It was very painful, and I'm sure every time there is a divorce, it's very painful for all the three people concerned.
Was the press very harsh on you? Very
Not really.
judgmental?
Not
The
really.
people
Not.
around you?
No. You
The
know what?
industry?
What happened is, see, I'm a feminist, okay,
And so
and
is Judge.
I'm Javed Saab, and so my fans were startled because they saw this as a blow to the feminism they had associated with me. But at that time, Vicky, I had two choices. Either I could just duck and not say anything, or I could explain myself, which would have hurt too many people around me. And so I ducked, and I think that was the sensible choice. Because obviously, when people are saying, "How can you let us down? You are a feminist. How can you do this to another woman?" and all that, the desire to explain yourself is very great. But I think the fact that I didn't really helped the healing.
Let's talk about some, you know, two heroines I really want to speak about. Is one is Jaya ji and Zeenat Aman. You have always spoken highly about them much earlier.
They were the path breakers, absolutely. Jaya Bhaduri and Zeenat Aman were path breakers. Jaya Bhaduri, because she brought in the girl next door. You had never seen the girl next door in the simplicity of the way Jaya presented
Right from
herself.
Goody, right from Millie. Yeah.
Absolutely. And Zenith, because before Zenith, the Western influenced girl would have horrible golden hair and five wigs and, just look absolutely unbearable. And there was this girl in the 70s, everybody had straight hair like that. And she looked like somebody that you could identify with. And she kept that. And I think that led to a shedding of the wigs, that led to a shedding of the blue eyes, that brought about a lot of realism in that period. And I think that's why both of them are real path breakers.
Are you in touch with them?
I am in touch with Jaya constantly, Zenith on and off.
She's recently on Instagram and
I believe so, yes.
so many followers. People are going crazy.
Wonderful. That's excellent. That's excellent. I love her gray hair. I think that's wonderful.
Okay, let's talk about some of the heroes you acted with. Starting with, of course, Farooq Sheikh.
Farooq Sheikh was a dear friend because we were in college together in St. Xavier's. And he was 2 years senior to me. And together we had formed the Hindi Natya Mandal, Manch. Because before that we had only English theatre. And so the two of us felt, okay, nahi, it's important that we have Hindi Natya Manch, and got permission from college, and then won every single award in every single inter college. So what would happen is in every intercollegiate competition, and then what would happen is we would win sort of best play, best director, best actor, best actress, etc. It would come to about the princely sum of 150 rupees. And so what Farooq would do is he would drop me home because Juhu was very far from Xavier's or wherever we were doing that. So we would sit in one taxi. We would have a pilot taxi and a taxi after us because that's how we wanted to spend this princely money
Wow.
that we had earned. And then he would drop me home and we would think, yeah, hum log shehzade aur shehzadi ho gaye.
royals.
So
Yeah,
sweet,
yeah.
so sweet, really. फारूक के साथ मैंने 22 साल तक तुम्हारी अमृता किया है. फिरोज अब्बास खान का play written absolutely splendidly by Javed Siddiqui. And we've gone through all kinds of experiences in that play. But what I remember is that we did uh, a show on the 14th of December at the background of the Taj Mahal. And it was absolutely stunning and beautiful because we did the first half before twilight and the second half in dark. And I said, we've been doing this play for 22 years. We should call the curtains on it now. So, because we'll never get any background better than this. And he said, why? Why are you saying that? We'll do it for 22 years more. And 14 days later, he was gone. So, for me to accept that Farooq is actually gone took such a long time because I have such vivid recollections of him. And he was a dear, dear friend. And ऐसा होना नहीं चाहिए था.
Was he unwell? Was it sudden?
He was not so unwell. He was very, he didn't believe in medicine and all that. He wanted to do just Hakim ka ilaj and Ayurved ka ilaj and all that. So I think he was careless.
Of course, the second one is Nasiruddin Shah.
I love him. I love him because he is such a fantastic actor. And I've had the privilege of working with him in so many different roles and learned so much from him. What I used to do in the earlier times, I would want to give my 100% to every single shot that I did. And I would watch Nasir. One, that he would read the script 100 times because you never know what you get in one reading. Okay, so the same script, this is during Masoom. And then I realized that he calibrates his performance. If in scene 36, he knows he should not go all the way out because in scene 62, that's where he needs to pull out all the stops. And that's just by observing him. And there was a time when Nasir and I were doing so many films together, the poor husband and wife, the middle class husband and wife, the rich husband and wife, everything, that he was spending more time with me than with Ratna, and I was spending more time with him than, than with Javed. So it's been very, very, very pleasurable working with him. And I really want to work with him again very soon. Yes. Yes.
Have you told him that?
I adore him. Yes, of course. I absolutely adore him. He is the best actor, I think, that we have in Indian cinema.
Om Puri?
Om Puri, I remember. Om Puri, I haven't worked in as many films with Om Puri as with Nasir. But I remember I was doing a film called Patang, Gautam Ghosh's film. And we were working with newcomers, all of them. And I had gone on the set in Bihar somewhere before them. And I got a little fed up of working with amateurs. And then a couple of days later, Om came. And the questions Om asked Gautam Ghosh, quite flippantly, not like with seriousness and all that. And I suddenly realized, oh my God, to have a professional actor is such a joy for a co-actor. Because you see, what happens with having good co-actors is that it's all about looking into the eyes. So if you look into your co-actor's eyes and the co-actor is speaking the truth, then your work becomes so much easier. So we had a fun relationship, Om and I, and he was a very fine actor.
Do you recall the last time you met him?
I can't remember the last time I met Om. But I do remember that we were shooting for Meera Nair's film in Delhi, and he was packing up some croissants. And I said, why are you packing croissants? And he said that Ishan, that's his son, loves these. And so I'm taking them for him. And I thought it was so sweet that, he was being so so thoughtful that his son, because he liked the shape of that. So that touched me. I was happy with that.
And
but he could have a very bad temper. He could, and when he got into a bad mood, then it was not nice. It was not nice.
It
But
happened on the sets, like.
sometimes it happened on the sets. He would get very angry. But otherwise, he was lots of fun and he would make a lot of fun of himself also. And I think he wore his talent quite lightly. He didn't, I mean, look at what happened with Om. Look at the number of Western films that he did. I mean, he was working with Helen Mirren, and there was no shadow of that on him. He never came and tom-tommed about
Yeah.
it. You know, I really think that he wore his talent very lightly.
And with Farooq Saab, your last meeting was that twilight time when you mentioned that we should end the play.
Yeah.
Shashi Kapoor.
You know, I have been a fan of Shashi Kapoor since I think I was 9 or something like that. And he would, so when I was in school and after that, uh, I knew that every Sunday he would come with his family to Prithviraj Kapoor's house. And Prithviraj Kapoor was my immediate neighbor.
Yeah.
So I used to save on my pocket money and buy a black and white photo of Shashi Kapoor. And every Sunday I would go and I would get it signed by him. He's the only person whose autograph I took on his photograph. So, I mean, for me, when I was suddenly cast opposite him in Hero Aur Patthar, it was like completely unbelievable. And the thing about Shashi is he's just scolded me, scolded me. And
Why?
that was his way of showing affection. It
Okay.
was crazy. And like, I'll give you an example. We were we were shooting for Fakira, and the song was Dil Mein Tujhe Bitha Kar. Now, I went on the set before he arrived, and Satyanarayan ji was doing the choreography, and I saw that the moves were very intimate. He was very young at that time, and I said I had tears in my eyes, and I left the set with my heart thudding because I really didn't want to do those shots. So I went in and I told my hairdresser that I can't do those shots, etc. And started trying. Thud, 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 thud. There was this knocking on the door. Comes Shaji Kapoor. He said, "What's wrong with you?" So I said, "I can't do those scenes." So he said, "Why? When you became an actress and you said, मम्मी मम्मी मैं भी actress बनूंगी, तब तुमको ख्याल नहीं आया कि इस तरह की चीजें तुमको करना है, stupid girl, ये वो." And he left. And I told my hairdressers, how mean is he? Look at the state that I am in and look at the way he's speaking to me. And then after about half an hour or something, I went on the set and Vicky, he had got every move changed.
Wow.
Every move changed. But this was the kind of person he was. I remember when I went on a hunger strike and
Yeah, I know this.
nobody from the film industry came to visit me, but Shashi Kapoor came
Yeah.
to visit
And he
me.
went to meet the CM also.
And then he said, "All right, what is it that you all want?" So we gave him a list of what we wanted. He went to S.B. Chauhan, who was the CM, and he said, "Listen, the film industry does so much for you. And one of our main people from our industry is on hunger strike. So you have to do something about it." And that's how it got resolved. So he came to us and he said, the housing minister will come और तुमको पानी पिलाएंगे और they are conceding to your demands. So we were so touched and so happy because 5 days we'd been on the hunger strike और कुछ नहीं खाया या पिया था. So then on the set, on the stage, I said, "You just wait here because we are going to announce this." And when I said, "और शशि कपूर जी का हम बहुत शुक्रिया अदा करते हैं," तो I saw him slinking away in a corner. I said, "Shashi ji, come here." He said, "No, it's your victory." I was so deeply touched.
Changing those steps and going to the CM is all about giving you respect and dignity.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
and
Yeah.
not wanting to come and occupy the stage also.
He was very special. Very, very special. You know, the last time I saw him was in the hospital, and I knew that was the last time I was going to see him. And he just passed away a couple of days after that. He, he had lost his will to live, which was very sad because look at the contribution Shashi Kapoor has made with Prithvi Theatre, the institution that he has given. See, Shashi Kapoor was the kind of person who believed that he should give back to the industry that he was in. So he produced films, he distributed them, then he made this theater. He didn't take away that money and start building buildings, and he didn't put his money somewhere else. He put it right back there. And Shashi Kapoor also, we have to remember, he was the first person that went to Hollywood. You know, Pretty Polly was a film he did with that girl, I can't remember. And then after that, he did a couple of films more, but he never spoke about it. But he was the path breaker so much before anybody else.
Why had he lost the will to live? What did you make out? I mean,
I think his health was not very good. And I think that after he lost his wife, slowly and steadily, that started happening with him. He was very young. He shouldn't have done that, you know. And then he got into a state where he was physically so unwell that he could not do any work either. And that was very sad.
you've done 160 films, and how many have you refused? Be honest.
Oh, many, many, many. And you see, for me, it wasn't really very difficult because I was pretty certain that there were certain kind of films I wouldn't do. There were films that uh, if they suggested that a woman is inferior to a man, I wouldn't do it. If a film had any communal um, problems, then I wouldn't do it. So, I mean, I was very clear in my values because I have a worldview, and I've also regarded my worldviews as informing the choices that I make as an actor or as an activist or anything. And I remember there was a film that was offered to me, and I said no. And he said, "But it's the main role. What are you doing?" So I said, "I can't do this film." And there was another film that he was making which had a very small role in it. I said, "I'll do that." He said, "You're mad. Nobody would make that choice." I said, "No, but I have to do that." And the sad thing was, I refused that film. Somebody else did, and the film did become a big hit. But हमको जो करना है हम करेंगे.
Which was that film?
नहीं बताओ.
Okay. But when you mentioned that you didn't want the woman to be inferior on screen, etc., and you refused those roles, it makes me ask, did the pay disparity bother you
No.
during those
No.
days? Some people
Pay-
have now become vocal.
Pay disparity doesn't bother me even now. You know why? Because the fact is that the pay disparity happens because women-led films do not earn the kind of box office revenues that the male-led films do. So women, in order to reach that place, have had to forego their pay, lessen their pay, do all kinds of things. So I don't think that's such a terrible thing because it's in the process. And because it's happening in the process and you've contributed to that process, a time will come when it'll become equal. I mean, there have been some girls and some women recently who have been successful in doing women-led films which have done well commercially, and that slowly will create it. Lekin agar if you want the movement rather than just for yourself, if you want the movement to succeed, then you will have to undergo. The number of films that I did for free when I was doing parallel cinema is,
You did Earth for free. I mean, we came to know very recently
yeah, but there were also
when Batsaf spoke about it.
there were also other films, and there were films you wouldn't believe it when we paid from our own pocket to make sure that the schedule happens. आज कोई कर सकता है ऐसा? आई रिमेम्बर बाबूराम इशारा ये पिक्चर मैं कर रही थी और पता ही चला कि नहीं अब जो है नहीं हो सकता बिकॉज पैसे ही नहीं है. आई गिव हिम मनी when we were doing विनोद चोपड़ा के साथ हम लोग फिल्म कर रहे थे खामोश. Very nice film.
What a fantastic film.
Yes, and I heard that Vinod is going by third class by train, and he had just had an operation and he was uncomfortable. And I said, "What nonsense!" And I bought him the ticket because it was not about money. It was about a vision and about doing something together, something of value. It was not all calculated in terms of money.
But there was so much of love and affection then, and today we don't see that. I mean, I was talking to some of the senior actors, and in fact, to mention one, Sunil Shetty recently, and I mean, today actors don't want to work with each other. A doesn't want to work with B, B doesn't want to work with C. Like you had Amar Akbar Anthony, Parvaresh, and so many other multi-starrers. Do we see those? He said that media agencies decide that whether the actor will take up a role or not. If they see a mother or a father in the script, they say, oh, they are not cool. Why are they here?
But
I mean, if that is the kind of the story.
Changes will happen, and I don't want to sound like an old woman के हमारे ज़माने में ऐसा था और आज ऐसा है. Changes तो होंगे, लेकिन definitely मुझे ऐसा लगता है, you know, when we were doing 12 films at one time, it didn't matter. एक दो picture अगर आपकी flop भी हो जाए और एक दो चल जाए तो फिर बहुत था. Today now actors are choosing one film at a time, and unfortunately the entire box office value depends on the success of the last film. So they've become scared. And most times I feel actors say no to a perfectly good project in the belief that there might be a better film offered to them 3 months from now. तो वो imaginary script जो उनके पास आ सकती है उसके लिए वो perfectly good script को ना कह सकते हैं. But I think our actors are wonderful. They're all doing absolutely fabulous work. Where I think they sometimes fail is in the script, in the content. Because what happens with actors is if you have a good role, you love it. Because you're concerned about yourself, or abhi main itni mehnat karunga and all that. But what does it say in terms of the final script? That I think that wo judgment is lacking in a lot of very, very fine actors.
Do you miss the dialogues? You know, I think you're the best person to ask this because it was all about Salim Javed that time. In the years at least when I was growing up, and Parvarish, Amar Akbar Anthony, or I mean Sholay, whatever you say, I mean all those dialogues जो आज भी हम बोलते हैं every day at home, we say it everywhere.
But the times have changed. The times.
That writing, do you miss when you see today's films?
See, the writing was very special for its times. But today, I think unless you have a whole film that belongs to that genre, in regular films, they might be out of place because films today are attempting to be more realistic and conversational dialogue is being appreciated more. जो मुझे जिस बात की बहुत तकलीफ होती है कि इतनी गालियां क्यों देते हैं, you know, and especially in OTT, मतलब इतनी गाली देते हैं in being realistic कि मुझे उलझन होने लगती है. I want to switch off the TV when I see it. You know, it's a choice that you can make. Now, it seems like I'm praising my daughter, but if you see Gully Boy, Zoya could have filled it with really abusive language, but she made the choice and she didn't. So it really depends on you. You can create an atmosphere. You don't have to be so full of abuses. मुझे बहुत बुरा लगता है.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you. Who talks like that every sentence? I mean, they say this is realistic. ऐसा ही होता है. ये इस शहर में प्रोजेक्ट की गई है फिल्म. इसका
अगर
बैकग्राउंड ये है.
अगर होता भी है तो आप में कुछ डिस्क्रेशन हो सकता है ना.
Yeah,
तो डिस्क्रेशन को तो आप इस्तेमाल कर सकते हैं.
yeah. Before I ask you where you met Javed Saab, because that is something that is unknown. Let's quickly discuss some of the finest directors you worked with, and I would like to point out at least three: Shyam Benegal, Basu Terry, and Mahesh Bhatt. If you could speak about them.
Well, I owe so much to Shyam Benegal because I started with him. Had I not started with Shyam Benegal, but with different kind of films, my career would have taken a completely different trajectory. But I was very fortunate because I was out of the film institute. I had been exposed to international cinema, to Norwegian cinema, to Japanese cinema, to French cinema, that I would never, Italian cinema, which I would never have seen had I not gone to the Film Institute. So obviously my aesthetics were being shaped. And then I was very fortunate that I got Shyam Benegal really and truly to mentor me. He doesn't want to be called my mentor. He doesn't want to be called my guru. So I keep saying he's my reluctant guru. But the thing is that Shyam has influenced my life not only as director to actress, but also in shaping my aesthetics and teaching me about life. Whether he did it consciously or not, I don't know. But Shyam has been very, very important. And what I really appreciate about Shyam is, after that, when in the moments, in the times when I wasn't working with him, if he liked something of mine, he would ring me up and say, "Bahut acha." But if he didn't like something, and he would call me and something I wouldn't, he would call and call again till he was able to talk to me and then explain to me what he thought was wrong with my performance in complete detail. Now, if that's not a guru, I don't know who is.
I think he considers you family
guru.
from what I make of this.
Yes, but he considers me an equal, and I want him to be my guru. But he considers me an equal, but I value it so much because I think only if you care very deeply for somebody will you take the trouble of telling them that you haven't liked something. Because otherwise you just want to be pretty pleased, happy with everybody. कोई जो है ये बताना नहीं चाहता. अगर वो बताते हैं और उनसे मैंने benefit किया है, so I truly, truly appreciate. I just absolutely love the man.
Vasudha?
Vasudha was absolutely lovely, completely underrated. The understanding of the middle class person and his dialogue was absolutely wonderful. I mean, everybody talks about Swami, but Jeena Yahan is a film that to me is so relevant even today. And अपने पराए, बहुत सारी फिल्में, मगर उनकी जो सबसे बड़ी स्ट्रेंथ थी वो था उनका डायलॉग, उनकी अंडरस्टैंडिंग. एंड he was very funny. We were shooting in a lake in Mysore or something for Jeena Yahan. And we were in a boat. So I was told there were crocodiles in the river or the lake. So I said, and I was singing a song. और वो ऊपर से कैमरा देख रहे थे. तो मैंने कहा, बाशुदा इसमें मगरमच्छ हैं. And what will happen if the मगरमच्छ starts eating my feet? He's saying, तुम ऊपर से गाना गाते रहो, नीचे से कुछ भी होगा तो चलेगा, as long as you're singing. It was so typically Basu Chatterjee, I can't tell you. I enjoyed working with him very, very much. Lovely. And see, he had an understanding of this woman as somebody with respect and somebody with dignity. In Apne Paraye, the character I play has dignity. In Swami, padhi likhi ladki hai. You know, at that time you didn't see it that she would read these. She'd read Tolstoy. I mean, at that time who knew? So he had a perfect understanding. I consider myself fortunate that I got a chance to work with him.
Mahesh Bhatt.
What Mahesh Bhatt did by giving me Earth is the most precious gift and a director can give an actor, because 40 years later, there are still women who come up to me and they say that Earth transformed their lives and gave them courage. And Mahesh made the film with such honesty, such complete honesty. And he is an absolutely excellent director for an actor. Uh, there is a shot in Earth from that beautiful song, Tum Itna Jo Muskura Rahe. Now, what had happened is we'd been shooting it for 2 days. So when that shot came, and the shot comes after Rajkaran sees that my divorce papers have been signed. And so now I was sort of drained and I wasn't being able to uh, bring myself to it. And just before the clap went off, Mahesh said, "Look, exposed." Just that word, exposed, was the most perfect word he could have ever used. Because now, when you see that, you know that completely ऐसा लगता है कि इसको बिल्कुल expose कर दिया है. So he had this ability of giving you the right word. He had the ability of stirring up emotion in you. And when I would, if he gave me something very difficult to do and I would try to, he said, don't do artificial conflict. You have to do it and you just go ahead and do it. For instance, the scene that I do in Earth when I speak to Smita, the phone scene. Okay.
Yeah.
Now that came in after, in my head, the film had been done. So Mahesh rings me up and he says, "Where are you shooting today?" I said, "Filmistan." He said, "Before you go to Filmistan, you just come to the Sunita bungalow where Smita is shooting, and just against the wall, we'll take one. क्या बोलते थे उसका? कुछ word था उसका. When you just insert something. So I said, "Okay." He said, "You just come as you are. You don't have to dress up or any such thing." And I reached there and he gives me this scene. And I just looked at him and said, "Mahesh, are you mad? How can I do?" And he says, "Artificial conflict की जरूरत नहीं है. हमारे पास time ही नहीं है. Because this is the last day that we are shooting. And we have to do it, just go." So I started feeling that emotion inside me. He said, "We'll do just one rehearsal." And that rehearsal, when I was getting all emotional, he said, "Flat rehearsal, flat rehearsal." So it's just के मतलब Praveen Bhatt कैसे वो camera लेगा? And then he said, "Start and action." And that whole shot is done in one take. And 10 minutes later, I was out and going to the next shooting. I feel that, in fact, if it had been given to me a couple of days in advance, I would have got knotted in my stomach and I would have tried to do all kinds of things and all that. The fact that he just gave it to me and made me do it. But it was also because Mahesh and I were so well tuned with each other during art. कि मैं हमेशा कहती हूँ कि वो बटन दबाते थे और बस I would start performing. But I'm deeply, deeply grateful to him because the number of people who still come up to me and talk about art, so it was, see, all actors need one film by which they'll always be remembered. So, like Nargis got Mother India, is tarah ka. And so I've got art, and I have only Mahesh Bhatt to thank for it.
Where did you meet Javed Saab?
You know, Javed says that he first came to our house when he was just, I think I was 3 and he was 8 or some such
He
thing.
remembers.
He remembers because, see, his parents and my parents were friends. His father and my father are so similar in their worldview. The fact that both of them were from the Communist Party,
Yeah.
that they were lyricists, they were poets, they were progressive writers, they were from UP, they loved Urdu. इतनी सारी चीजें साथ थी कि ये कहा जाता है हमारे बारे में कि we should have actually had an arranged marriage because if you look at how similar backgrounds we are. But I started seeing him uh, around the late 70s when he would come. He had just started writing poetry and he would come to my father to show him the poetry on sala lene ke liye. I used to stay away from him because I had heard that Salim Javed were very arrogant people and they were from a world that I didn't want to be part of. And so I would stay away. Now, when he saw Sparsh, he really went all out and he came and he talked to me and he spoke to me about Sparsh and all that. And I was so surprised because I realized, oh my God, but I think of him as somebody completely different and uh, how carefully he has noted or कैसी dialogue उनको याद है. And then अब्बा के जो dialogue थे हीर रांझा के पूरे उनको याद थे. So slowly we started meeting in Janki Kuti and I found that he was not at all like his image. That he was firstly very intelligent, very, very funny. All those things, of course, very, very witty. But the fact is that he was somebody with whom I shared my worldview. And so in discovering Javed, I rediscovered my father. They had the same kind of background, and then I really enjoyed meeting him because before that, I had different friends. Somebody who would connect with me intellectually, somebody who would make me laugh, somebody who would give me emotional support. Suddenly, Javed, I felt that all these qualities were available in one man, and that's how it started.
Both realized at the same time that you all have fallen in love.
Almost, yes, almost.
It's lovely. It's lovely seeing you every time, and we want to see more of you. And above all, I repeat, you're a treasure. And trust me now, it's a modest statement that I've said. You're a treasure to cinema. Thank you, Shabana ji. Thank you so much for this lovely conversation.
Thank you so much.